So good morning. Thank you for joining us. My name is Davina Gowndon, and I'm the Communications Coordinator here at RPRA, and I'll also be your moderator for this session. And I'd like to welcome you to RPRA's Blue Box Registry portal walkthrough for producers. During this webinar, we'll be answering your questions. So to ask a question, you can click on the Q&A tab, type your question or comment and click send. There's also an upvote or a like feature where you can like another person's question once it's been submitted. If you see a question that maybe you would like answered or you would really like us to answer quickly, you can like the question and it'll be bumped up in our queue. We do have quite a large number of participants in this webinar today, so it's possible that we won't get to all the questions during the allotted time. So if we can't get to your question or it's very specific to your situation, please email our compliance and registry team at registry@rpra.ca. Just a reminder that this webinar is being recorded and will be posted to our website along with this presentation later this week. So if you miss anything or want to revisit it, it will be available. So now I'm going to hand it off to our compliance team, which is Michelle, Pele, and Marisa, and they're going to kick off today's presentation. Thank you.
Thanks, Davina. So welcome everyone to our walkthrough of the Blue Box Registry portal. I have my colleagues, Pele and Marisa. They're going to be in the chat and they will be, in the Q&A, and they're going to do their best to work with me to answer your questions as much as we can. So our agenda today is we're going to have a little introduction, talk about what we are and are not going to be talking about in this demo. We're going to cover on a slide deck the registration login and registration itself. And then we're going to move to a live demo of supply data reporting within the portal itself. And that will also include supply data reporting and how you manage your pros. So the first thing I'd like to point out is that it's important for you to note that in this walkthrough, we're going to be talking about 2021 and 2022 supply data reporting. So the fees and the management requirements for those years are only for those years. So if you come back to this next year for reporting as a refresher, you'll need to know that any kind of numbers that we referenced in this only relate to 2021 and 2022. We consult on our fees every year, and that's why there's a fluctuation. So if you're looking at this in the future, hello. And 2023 will be a different management requirement target as well as fees. Next slide, please, Davina. So what we're going to talk about today is we are going to talk about how to log into the registry, how to access the portal if you are new, a net new producer, or if you are somebody who's already registered and just needs to figure out how to do it online. We're going to talk about how to access your supply data reports, how to manage your pro, and how to add users to your account. What we are not going to talk about in this is other program areas and requirements and their specific requirements. We're not going to talk about Blue Box accounts that couldn't be migrated during this cycle. So just very briefly, there's a very small subset of all the producers that have registered with RPRA that for technical reasons could not be migrated into the portal. Those cases have already been assigned to a compliance and registry officer, and we have reached out to all of those contacts to say, we need to work with you to ensure that your data is accurate and in the portal. So if you are one of those producers, you should have already received an email. If not, please email us at registry@rpra.ca, and the officer who is assigned to your case will reach back out to you. We're also not going to go into any details about performance reporting. That's going to be a future thing that we have a webinar on. And we're also not going to be speaking to your company's specific obligations. We're trying to keep this high level so that all 182 of you can get the general information that you need to do your reporting now. If you have any questions or concerns about your specific supply data, again, after this webinar, feel free to email us and we can provide you with that support. Next slide, please. So In case there's a producer on the call today that is net new, has not sent in a registration form with us, they may be asking themselves, what is supply data reporting? What do we need to report? So it's an annual report every year that a registered producer needs to supply. It provides the weights of the blue box materials that each producer supplies into Ontario from the previous calendar year. So when we say a 2022 supply data report, that report is providing the data from what someone supplied in 2021. One other thing we get from the supply data report is management requirements. So based on how much you supply into the Ontario market, as a producer, you will be obligated and may have management requirements based on how much you supply. That management requirement target is automatically calculated in the portal after you submit your supply data. So if you are a producer of blue box materials, you need to report your revenue, whether or not you are above or below 2 million. You need to do that every year. You need to report the weight, as we discussed, of all your blue box materials. The weight of, if you qualify and have provided validation or are able to provide validation of the 2 allowable deductions for blue box, you can also put that in. If you are a newspaper producer, you need to also indicate what percentage of your total blue box material supply was represented by newspapers. And then a list of the brands that make up the previous year's supply data. And we are going to go into more detail about all of this. Next slide, please. So let's talk about registration login. So if you are an account admin, this is the link that you need to get into. If you are the account admin for your company, you will have received an email automatically from the portal, providing you with a link saying that this is your username, and usually your username is the email address that you provided upon your initial registration, and inviting you to click a link that will allow you to set up a password. If you've already done that, or if you are already registered in another program, you don't necessarily need to go that route. You can just go directly to the registry sign-in page, which looks like this, enter in your email and password, and then log in that way. It's important to understand that the online registry is actually a bunch of different things. The online registry is the place where you go as a producer to get questions answered. So the registry at RPRA email is a part of the online registry. Another part of the online registry are our program areas. So each program area has its own portal. So if you are a producer that produces electronics, you will have access to 2 different portals within the registry. You will have the electronics portal that you can log into and report on your electronics supply data. And then you will have the Blue Box portal that you can also log into to provide the supply data for your Blue Box material that surrounds your electronics. So the registry is much larger than just Blue Box. Blue Box is one tiny component of the entire registry, and that's what we're going to be focusing on today. Next slide, please. So if you are a net new producer, so what that means when I say that is that you are a business or an entity that has just entered the Ontario market in 2021 and started supply materials during that time, or you are an entity that has existed in the Ontario market before that time, but you recently acquired materials or things that you supply in Ontario new that you never had an obligation for before. So if your company, let's just say, acquired a product that had packaging around it that qualified as Blue Box material, it was surrounded in cardboard, and nothing that you provide up until this point has had that cardboard around it or any Blue Box material, that would make you a new producer. So the first thing that you need to do when you enter into the portal is fill out this form. And the first step is to include your CRA number. We get a lot of questions, but why do you need our CRA number? The CRA number ensures that each entity that's registered in the portal has a unique account. We need to keep all the accounts separate, obviously. And one way of doing that is using this unique number to identify each business. It's another way for us as compliance to understand how larger companies might be reporting in divisions. So if one division signs up and reports now, and then another division tries to log in with the same or tries to sign up with the same CRA number, they're going to get an error. And then that's going to prompt us to say, oh, okay, what actually needs to happen here is your divisions need to report together as one company. So it helps us understand who is reporting, and it ensures and it decreases the administrative burden. So everybody just has one account in their company to report through. So you need your CRA number, your legal business name, and if your company has a business operating name, whatever that is. You can, if you don't have one, you can just choose copy legal name. Next slide. I should also point out that all the fields that we're talking about are mandatory. These are what are required in order to set up an account with RPRA. So your business and address and phone number, this is the main business and head office number. It's not necessarily where you as the account admin would be operating out of. So, and it can be a place outside of Ontario. It can be a place outside of Canada. So it's the main entity of, or the main address for your entity. Again, the phone number should be the business main phone line, not your personal connection. That's going to come later. Next slide, please. And so here's where you're going to put your specific information in. Your name, your email address. Your email address will be your username. That's where the emails will go. And then if you are in a different location from your head office, this would be the place where you would enter it. If not, you can just hit copy business address and it'll just populate it for you from the previous page. And then again, the same thing will happen for a business phone number. If it's the same number, if you are a smaller entity and everything is in one shop, just copy that over. And then it's important to note to finalize it, you have to agree to the terms of use and hit create account. Next slide, please. So once you've done all that in the portal, you will receive an email at your email address asking you to set up a username, set up a password. If you don't get that email promptly, it usually comes pretty quickly. Please reach out to us and we can figure out what the issue is. We can try and do a reset. Hopefully there won't be anything more serious that needs to be figured out, but usually it's a quick fix. We do not have access to your passwords. We can't tell you, we don't know what they are. You set them up, you are the only one that has access to them. So if you need to change it, there's two ways that you can do that. You can, at the very beginning, when you first log in, you can send a reset that way, or you can email us at our email address and we can resend you a reset email from the back end. Either way works. Next slide, please. So once you are registered, so what you've done is that you have now registered in the registry. So again, you're in that big box of everything that happens at RPRA. But what you want to do next is you want to narrow that down to the portal. And the portal that you want to be registered in. The portal that we're talking about today is Blue Box. So as you see, this actually doesn't represent all the program areas in the portal. This is actually only the ones, most of them, not all of them are there, but a lot of them are there. What you're going to look for, what you're going to see on the screen is a whole bunch of black icons. You're going to look for the Blue Box. And you're going to click on that and it's going to come, once you click on that and say, yes, that's the one that you want to choose, that's going to make it green. It's going to go to the top of this screen. So the next time you log in, you're going to have a page that's separated in two portions. The top portion is going to show all the programs that you're registered for. And you will have Blue Box registered, showing as green registered, and then all the other programs below. So if down the road you need to register for a different program, you will do the same thing again, but whatever program that is. Next slide, please. So as a part of choosing to register in the Blue Box portal, you need to identify your role within there. There's only three roles in the Blue Box portal. There are producers, there are processors, and there are pros. Pro registration, we all know what a pro is. Hopefully, we know what a pro is. So we're not going to talk about pros today. But by and large, most folks should just be choosing producer. And then the question is, when did you begin supply Blue Box materials into Ontario? Unless you are a net new producer, you should just choose the default, which is June 3rd, 2021 to December 31st, 2021 or earlier. It seems like an arbitrary date to put in June 3rd, 2021, but that's the date that the regulation started. And that's the date when your obligation began to start, your obligation began to meet the obligations within the regulation. I did skip the Stewardship Ontario account number. So some of our producers are already registered as SO stewards. SO stewards are from the old program, the WDTA program, and they still have an obligation to report to Stewardship Ontario as they wind up during transition. This can be confusing. We do have some folks that sometimes mix up the We Recycle or the CSSA portal with our portal. We are not connected. The portals do not connect, but you can use the information that you reported in the spring as a start for your RPRA reporting. I say as a start because it really depends on your case. There are significantly more obligated materials in the new Blue Box regulation compared to the old WDTA program. So the onus is on the producers to ensure that they're reporting everything that they need to report. It may be in your specific situation that you can just take the numbers from Stewardship Ontario and put them right into your RPRA report and you're done. That's great. Just make sure that you're not missing anything. And we are always happy to help you walk through it with you to make sure that you're not missing anything. So you don't have to fill in the Stewardship Ontario steward number. If you don't have one, don't fill it in. You also don't need to put NA or not applicable. You can just leave it blank. It's not a mandatory field. But if you put that number in, what it does is it helps us to understand how you reported before and ensures that we are aligning, excuse me, that we are aligning the stewards and we're moving them into the RPRA program and that we don't need to contact you further. If we can connect your steward number with your RPRA number, it means that we know that you are now reporting to both and that we don't need to follow up with you any further. So it's a compliance tool. And then the last thing you need to do is just to confirm that the rules selected above are correct. And if for some reason you did it wrong, like you chose processor instead of producer, reach out to us. We will need to change that in the back end. We will need IT support. So to make that change. So just reach out to us. You won't be able to fix it on your own. Next slide. So let's stop there before we move to the live demo and see if there's any questions.
So we do have a couple. We have one specifically related to registration. So this registrant is asking, if we have different people managing Blue Box versus we, WEEE, do we need to sign on with the same account?
So yes, you do need to. So if you are already signed up with we, you already have an account set up in the portal. What you will need to do is just skip the new registrant part and go right to logging in. Whoever is reporting for you for we, they can log in. And when they get to the main page with all the icons, all they need to do is just choose Blue Box, do that producer check, the role selection, and then you will be registered. At that point, if there's somebody else at your company who has taken on the reporting for Blue Box that's different from we, at that point, you can start adding them in as a user so that the Blue Box users will get the emails that they need to see. The we person will get all the emails if they are the ones that are the account admin. It really depends on how your company is set up and how you want to assign the account admin versus the primary and secondary users, but we will go into more detail on that when we get to the live demo.
Thank you, Michelle. We do have a couple of other questions, but I think that they would be better answered during the live demo. So is it okay
Sure.
if we move on to the live demo and then I can bring them up again?
Sounds great.
Thank you.
So I'm just going to set up to share the screen. I'm just going to wait for Davina to close out the slide deck, and then we'll get there. I'm very sorry, folks. My condo has apparently decided to have a fire drill. So hopefully it won't last very long. Timing. Hopefully that's all. So I have a test account that I have set up for, sorry, let me just get rid of that. That I have set up to be able to walk you through the portal itself. Unfortunately, because this is a test sandbox, we call them, that we use to test out different options within the portal, I don't have access to the live portal. So I can't set up a new account. So what I did was I used one of our test accounts that had already been set up in order to do this demo today. So I wasn't able to show you the registration from the very beginning. That's why we did it in the slide deck. But what I can show you now is the portal itself and how to use it. So let's get started. Sorry, I'm going to stop sharing just for a second and see if I can do this better. Okay, let's try that one more time. Okay, so after you finish registration and doing role selection for the Blue Box portal, you are now in the Blue Box portal. You can tell that because there's a little blue box up here. If you are somebody like the person who wrote in asking about we versus Blue Box, if that individual signed into their account and they were actually reporting both we and Blue Box, you could switch programs right here. And this will take you back out to the main page immediately with all the icons. And then you could just pick the next program that you need to report for. So this is what we call your dashboard. This is where all the main activity occurs. So let's talk about your supply data reports. So that's always going to be the very top. You can see that I provided my already provided my supply data report for 2021. This was migrated into the portal. So if you filled in a manual registration form before July 2022, that form, with a very small exception, has been migrated automatically into the portal. If you want to take a look at it, if you don't remember what you did last year or you needed it for your own internal purposes, you can view it here. It will take a little bit of time to load on this page, just because it is a sandbox. And I can see everything that I did here. I can see what I reported. That's my supply. I can also see that I submitted a fee of $266. I can also download this if I need a copy for my records. And when I want to go back, I can just hit back to dashboard, and then there I am. So I'm here to do my 2022 supply reporting. So let's start with that. You can see that I have not started, so we hit start. So the first thing to note are the row of chevrons. Each chevron is a step. At each step, to move to the next one, you have to hit save and next. What this does is it just saves that widget that you were working on, but it also allows you to stop if you don't have the information or you just want to double check something. So each step, you can actually stop, save, and you can log out and it will come back to you. When you log back in, it will prompt you. It'll say that your report is in progress and it will prompt you to go back to where you were. So let's start at the beginning. Revenue exemption. Was my revenue less than 2 million? So I've decided my company is Michelle's Patties. I sell patties to the Toronto market, and I definitely make more than $2 million a year because people love patties. So I'm going to say my revenue was not less. So I hit save and next. Okay. So now we're on to the supply data chevron. You can see that revenue check is done because now it's darker. The mid shade means that you're working on it right now. The lightest shade means you haven't touched those yet. And I can also confirm that I'm in the correct report. If I'm doubting myself or I'm doing multiple reports at once, I know that I'm on the 2021 report. So here, I'm going to enter in my Blue Box materials. So if I'm not sure what materials I need to report, we have a compliance bulletin that's called What Blue Box Materials Need to Be Reported. There's a link to it in the chat if you want to scroll up. And there's also a link there to the registry guide, which I will be referencing throughout the rest of the live demo. And I think there's something else there, but I don't remember. Oh, the producer webpage. So what we're talking about right now for the supply data reporting, you're going to find that on pages 15 to 22 of the registry guide. So I know that my material categories are flexible plastic, metal, and paper. So I'm going to enter in my totals. And if I was uncertain if certain materials that I supply are obligated or not, I would reach out to the registry officers, and they'll help me walk through what I do and do not need to report. If I wasn't a patty seller and I was a newspaper producer, it's at this point that I would indicate what percentage of my total Blue Box material supply was newspaper. So, and then I would provide a percentage of that. That's a calculation that I would need to do on my own. The exemption works is if you are above 70% newspaper supply, you will be exempted from management requirements and obligations. If you are a newspaper producer and you have concerns about whether or not you should be providing that percentage, then please reach out to us and we can help you figure that out. The next section to figure out is compostable products and packaging. My company does not use compostable packaging, but it might be something I want to use in the future. We only accept these standard numbers for industry standard ISO numbers for validating the standard of compostability. These specific standards are referenced because these are the only tested standards that work in Ontario compostable facilities. So you may be a producer of compostable products or supply compostable products and or packaging into the Ontario market, but just because it says it's compostable does not necessarily mean that it's effectively compostable in municipal facilities in Ontario. So these are the only ones that have been tested in Ontario compostable facilities, and that's why they are acceptable. I don't have any, so I'm going to hit save and next. There we go. So at this point, we move to supply deductions. Again, I point out there are only 2 allowable deductions for Blue Box materials. One is basically the restaurant deduction, which is Blue Box material that is supplied to an Ontario resident at a non-eligible source, and where the product that is related to the Blue Box material was supplied and used and or consumed. So in the logical, in my scenario, I'm a restaurant. I do supply takeaway to my clients or to my customers. And so I know that I can qualify. The catch is that you do need to be able to verify. We need accurate and complete data. So what I know that the one methodology that's allowed right now is the eat-in or takeout question. If I, in my computer terminals, ask the question, would you like your patties to eat in or take out? If they say eat in, and I can record that in my computer or in my cash register, I can provide that if requested by a compliance officer. And so I know that I can actually validate that I recycled a certain percentage of my materials in my store. And so I don't need to, I can actually use those as a deduction. So I would put those in for paper. Let's just say I got 5,000. So I'll hit save and next. Just going to let my team know that for some reason I cannot, my team's messages keep popping up and I can't get rid of them. So if you guys can just remove me from the chat, it's probably more efficient and less distracting to the demo itself. Thanks. So brands of list of brands. So this is not something that you did last year, but will be a requirement for future reporting. This is not unique to Blue Box. All of our program areas require a list of brands to be provided every year by all of our producers across all program areas. So a lot of our producers only have one brand. My brand is Michelle's Patties. So my list is literally going to be one row in an Excel spreadsheet that says Michelle's Patties. You can use the same list every year and upload it. We ask that it's an Excel spreadsheet that can be uploaded. And you can read the list of what the requirements are. If you have trouble creating this document, there are detailed instructions in the registry guide about how to create that list if you're not comfortable using Excel. So I am going to upload that list. There's my brand supply list. It's important to note that if I didn't know that I needed to do this until right now, I could have logged out of the portal and made the list and come back and it would have brought me right back here and I can continue. So I can see that it's been successfully uploaded. Hit save and next. So this is the summary of the report. It's really important to review this so that you understand what's happening. So probably the biggest takeaway for producers here are your minimum management requirements for 2023. If you report materials above the supply data threshold for that material category, it will create management requirements that you will have for 2023. Those management requirements are a percentage of what you supplied. You need to now ensure are collected back and managed and processed. Producers, generally speaking for Blue Box, are not in the waste management business. And that will be a reason why they would choose to hire a pro to help them meet those management requirements. So that's how you know whether or not you may need to choose a pro is whether or not you have management requirements. If this was all zeros, I would say for this year, maybe I don't need to necessarily work with a pro. But once you have management requirements, that's going to trigger the conversation that you need to have at your company about how you're going to meet these regulatory obligations. You may have the ability to do that within your own company, but that's for your company to decide. So here's the summary of what I entered. Here are my materials that I submitted. Here are my deductions. I can see that my brand list supply is down here attached to the bottom. If I had any problems with it, or I realized that I put my supply data into as a number in the deduction, which happens all the time, totally okay. Just hit edit report, go back, switch it out, all good. And then the last thing that I need to do is select payment method. What I want to point out here, which is not showing because I did my 2021 report in the online portal, it's at this point where you will see the executive attestation request. It will ask you to provide that report. You will have already submitted that or a version of that in when you originally registered last year. but the portal will ask for it again. You can use the one that you submitted previously and just upload it. If you don't have that available or you're new, you can just download one, a blank one. There will be a little prompt just above here saying download executive attestation. And you can download it, get it signed off by somebody who has the power to bind your corporation, and then it will upload. You will not be able to submit this report without the executive attestation. At this point, I get to pick my payment method. So all of these prompts are available to you. If it's important for you to choose the one that you want and make sure that it is what your accounts payable, how they want to pay it, because we can't change it. It's good to know that when you are submitting for a check or an electronic bill payment or a bank withdrawal, those will prompt emails to you, providing you with instructions and next steps to provide payment. If you choose EDI or credit card, it will prompt you to go to a new page and you will need to fill in the information at that point. So just be mindful of that. And then of course, if you're not ready to pay, if you want to pay by credit card and you're not ready to pay, feel free to cancel and then to just go back to the dashboard or log out and come back in when you have that information. So at this point, I'm going to pick check. And then again, it will tell me that it's going to send me an email. It will always give you the next steps for that payment type if you want to know what the next steps are before you commit to submitting. Okay. So now I can see my report is submitted and all of this is final. I can go back to the dashboard and I can see that it has been submitted. I can see the date that I did it. I can view it if I want to. I can also download it if I just want to email it to my AP. If I wasn't the account admin on this account, which I am, if I wasn't the account admin and I was maybe a primary or a secondary user, what will happen is there will be an email prompt to my account admin, whoever is taking responsibility for the entire program. They will get an email saying that I submitted the report on behalf of the company, date and time. Anybody else that needs to see that email will also see that email. So let's talk about pro choice. So I know I have management requirements, so I need to indicate who my producer responsibility organization is going to be. That's going to help me figure that out. So I'm going to say yes. And I'm going to pick my pro. So these are all our test pro accounts. So I'm going to go with BB Pro. I'm going to pick my start date. So let's just say my contract starts January 1, 2020. Oh, no, that makes sense. Let's do December 31st. So I put my start date in. You don't have to fill in a stop date. If the contract that you sign with a pro does not have a stop date, you don't need to put that in. Where this is helpful for is if you decide, because producers have the option of stopping or changing an agreement with a pro at any time. If you decide to switch pros, you can, or you move to a model of running your business that stops your obligation to manage materials, you can just put that date in here at that time. You can log in and change these at any time. So but you don't have to fill it in right now. But I am saying the Blue Box Pro that I hired is going to report in full for me for my performance report, which is not going to be this year. And they are also going to be doing my collection and management for me as well. So I can confirm this. So again, if you haven't made this decision yet for your company, that's okay. Please do your supply data reporting before October 31st. You can, once you've made your decision for your company to which pro that you are going to align with, you need to report to us within 5 days. That is very straightforward. All you need to do is log back into the portal, go to the dashboard, and then click yes to choose your pro. That's all you have to do. So I'm done there. Great. So now I know that my Blue Box Pro is going to be helping me with my management requirements, but I may have also contracted with my pro to do my supply data reporting for me. So that needs to be managed a little bit different. So what we're going to do is we're going to go into the profile of the account and we're going to add users. So adding a user can be anyone. This can be your accounts payable email. If you have a bulk email address where all of your AP goes to, you can add a user for that. You can add a user for somebody who helps support. Maybe you're the person who manages compliance nationwide, and so you need to have eyes on every province, but you want each province to be able to actually put their data into it so you don't have to do it. You can add as many users as you want. So let's add our pro. So oh, okay. I can't do it that way. So let's do it this way. So again, your email is your username. So you need the email of the person to, you need the email of the person. That's what's going to be their account, their username. Okay, same as business, program, only Blue Box. And we can do primary and secondary user access. So it's, this is at page, I think it's page 25 of the registry guide. There are different levels of access for each user. Account admins, everybody, they see everything, they get all the emails. Primary account users can do almost everything that an account admin can do, except for managing pro. So if you need to contract with a pro, it may be in your best interest to have your account admin be responsible for that part, because your primary cannot do that. A primary user can also add secondary users. Secondary users can only add in supply data report and pay fees. That's all the secondary users can do. Where we see folks using this is for their accounts payable and using it for their Blue Box supply data reporting, using the unique email address that your pro provides so that they get the email prompting them to report on your behalf. So that's all that you need to do for users. I'm going to authorize it and hit save. And now I have my pro signed up as a secondary user on the account. You can't delete users. You can only make them active or inactive. So if I decide that I just want to do that work on my own, I can just manage them. And sorry, I did this wrong. Okay, this might, there we go. So disabling will move the pro to the inactive users. If I change my mind, I can just hit enable and it brings it back up again. Oh, that's why. Other things that you can do in your profile is you can check to see the data that you put in. You can change your password in this place if you need to, and it also provides the profile for your company. And I think that's pretty much it for the live demo.
Perfect.
So I'm going to stop there and we'll see what questions we have.
Thank you, Michelle. We do have quite a few questions. I'm going to prioritize the ones with the portal in mind. So I have one webinar participant asking if RPRA can add a billing contact as a contact option within the registry, or is it just a secondary or primary admin user?
It's just a secondary right now because secondary users are only able to provide supply data reporting and paying the fees. But it's a good point, and we can definitely take that away and for a future enhancement. The portal is always a work in progress, and eventually there will be some points where we decide to enhance the portal further, and so we can definitely take that away. Thank you.
Perfect. Another question here is can the data be uploaded with decimals or as a whole number only?
Whole number is preferable.
Okay, thank you. If you are a municipality and a community center using compostable cutlery or something along those lines that's compostable, and you don't necessarily know the codes for the compost standards, what do you report in that case?
You would not be able to report that until you actually knew the numbers, because you have to report them into the fields that align with the standard number. So you would not be able to report that as a deduction, or sorry, you wouldn't be able to report that without getting that information. The vendor that you buy from should be able to provide that information for you. Usually with industry standards, it's mandatory to print the ISO number for the standard on the packaging of the material. So it should be on the box. That's the international standard, is to actually make it visible for consumers to be able to see, to make educated choices. So if you don't see one, more than likely it doesn't actually qualify, but check in with your external vendor to confirm.
Thank you. We do have quite a few questions about newspapers as well. So under the newspaper supply category, does that include non-CNA or OCNA members who report under that category?
It's anybody who produces newspapers.
Perfect. Thank you for that clarification. What if you are not a newspaper producer? Do you still have to fill out that percentage if you do flyers or ads that are made from the same material?
That's a good question. So the way that the regulation defines newspapers is the newspaper itself, any inserts or circulars that go into the newspaper, into the middle of them, and then any protective packaging that accompanies them. So it's that combination that counts as a newspaper. So if you are only producing one component of, that, the answer is no. So if you just produce flyers, so if you are a grocery store that produces flyers that get packaged into flexible packaging that goes into, that as a part of a Canada Post mail out, those would not be considered newspapers, and you would just report them in their material categories. You would report the package overlay under flexible plastic, and the flyers themselves would be reported under paper.
Great, thank you. And I have a question here of how does brand supply work for municipalities who supply mostly printed paper?
Good question. I just dealt with that a little while ago. So your brand, this is interesting because how we define producers is not necessarily businesses. It's anyone who supplies supplies Blue Box materials and has over $2 million worth of revenue. I'm just going to stop sharing there. That makes more sense. So for municipalities or for charities or for hospitals or daycares or not-for-profits, you would report whatever intellectual property you have for your company or your municipality. So for the county of, I'm trying to think of a county now, Halton Region. If you are Halton Region and you are reporting, then your brand would be Halton Region. If the brand, if Halton has any other intellectual property that maybe they have a mascot that they trademark their name, and there's like Blue Box packaging that they commit with that, then they would report that as well. But by and large, for municipalities, you're really just reporting the municipality's name.
Awesome. That goes with our next question that asks, are municipalities considered brands?
In the context of the Blue Box regulation, a municipality owns, the corporation of a municipality owns the right to its name. So yes.
Okay, we have a few more questions about pros. So just a clarification, because you did go over it in the walkthrough. Do producers have to report all these materials if they have a pro collecting it for them?
Yes. So what's happening is that the pros, that you will still need to report what you as a company are supplying to the Ontario market. What the pros will do for you, if you decide to contract with one, is that they will ensure that whatever percentage your management requirement is, they will ensure that you stay within compliance and that you receive back the number of the volume that you were supposed to report for. That's called performance reporting, and that we will be talking about more in 2023.
Awesome. And what if you will be getting a pro but haven't yet? How do you answer the question about if you already have a pro or aren't getting one?
You don't. If you haven't made that choice yet, don't fill it in. Do fill in your supply data report for 2022. Get that in before the deadline of October 31st. When your company has made their decision about which pro they want to work with, then you have 5 days to let us know. And then you just log back into the portal, and at the bottom of the dashboard, you can access and indicate who your pro is at that time. Definitely, it's not required for you to get that information in before you submit the supply data report. Your priority is getting your supply data reporting in on time. And then as soon as your company makes a decision to choose a pro, let us know within 5 days.
And there seems to be a little bit of confusion about if it's mandatory to select a pro or if you need a pro. Could you shed a bit more light on that?
Right. So simply put, when you are a producer, if you supply over threshold, if you supply Blue Box material over the threshold number, you are obligated as a producer to take responsibility for a percentage of the Blue Box materials that you are supplying into Ontario. Most businesses are not in the waste management business. There are some that have return programs where they can get back their Blue Box materials. Those are few and far between at this point in our circular economy journey in Ontario. The vast majority of producers do not have the resources to actually go and manage a Blue Box collection system for the province of Ontario. The obligation for all producers is to run and is to operate and fund the entire Blue Box system that will be starting in July 1st, 2023. So that's why you need a pro. If your company, so the pros are also operating that system on behalf of all producers. So in operating that system, they are ensuring that all the producers who have responsibilities to the system are meeting their targets by collecting back those Blue Box materials from municipal Blue Box across Ontario. So if you are a company, I would encourage anyone who is a company that has a system in place already that allows them to collect back the Blue Box materials that they supply to reach out to us and let us know, because depending on how much you get back and whether or not that fulfills your management requirements, you may not need to hire a pro. But the vast majority of people, unless our companies, will need to hire a pro to help them meet those targets.
Thank you so much for that clarification. Just moving on to a bit more about payments in the portal. So this participant is asking, is there any late penalties? Because if you choose the check method, it usually takes about 2 to 3 weeks to process. So would that mean that that producer pays late even though they process the check after?
That's a good question. I would need to follow up with our accounting department because I don't know what the penalty of any late fees are. So my call out to my team is that let's take that question away Let's confirm what the answer is with our accounting department, and then we'll post an FAQ, probably not until next week, answering that question, because it's a good one, and I don't know it off the top of my head. We'll commit to getting that answer out to you.
Thank you. There's also a question about submitting data here. If this participant has data gaps, are they permitted to use conservative estimates on potential data that they may be producing?
No. The requirement is that the data that you provide be accurate and complete. And we would need to talk to you more to understand what your gaps are and work with you to figure out what you should and shouldn't be reporting. But I think before you head into the portal to report, my suggestion would be to reach out to the registry and an officer and talk with an officer about what your gaps are before you put the time in to actually put that data in, so then we can understand whether or not where your gaps are, if they're real, if we can help you figure out what the solution to the problem is before you actually start putting the numbers in. Because if you put the numbers in and then come back to correct and then come back to us later and said we did it wrong, it's a bit more of a process for you to make those adjustments. So if we can kind of mitigate that work in the front end, it will mean less work for you in the back end. So I would strongly suggest you reach out and talk to us about your specific case.
Yes, and a related question asking if a report has been submitted, can a person go back and edit?
No. Once you submit it, you can't edit it. You'll need to reach out. If there is a discrepancy, you will need to reach out to the compliance and registry officers, and we will need to do an adjustment with you if it's required.
Okay, perfect. I do see that we have about 2 minutes left. So I just wanted to quickly launch a poll to get some feedback for this session. So we do this in every one of our sessions just to understand how we can improve for future sessions. So please take a few minutes to fill it out. Okay, just a few more seconds. Okay, perfect. Thank you so much. So I do know that there are a few more questions in the queue, but unfortunately we're at the end of our webinar. So if your question wasn't answered, please feel free to follow up with the compliance and registry team at, through our email, registry@rpra.ca. I'll just hand it over to Michelle to just give you a few more resources and helpful links before we close out the session.
Sure. So if you're looking for specific information about Blue Box, how to report the guide, please see our registry resources webpage. It's a great page because everything is in one place by program area. So if you want all the documentation for Blue Box, you just hit the Blue Box icon and everything is there for you. This webinar and all of our previous webinars are all hosted on our learning series page. So if you need to come back and check things out, that's where you will find this and any other webinar you may have participated in. And then, of course, we have our regular web page, which includes an FAQ that may answer specific questions that you may have about the Blue Box. And then we have the main Blue Box producer web page. And then, of course, we're always available to folks through the registry email address. I'd like to point out, just so everybody understands what's happening during the supply data reporting period, there are, as you know, multiple program areas that RPRA supports. We support all of the programs. And so this reporting period is not just Blue Box, it's actually HSP and lighting as well. So, and we're not a call center. We are officers that are working to help all of our registrants stay in compliance and report. So we really appreciate your patience and your kindness to folks when you call in. And if you don't immediately get a response, It's because we're helping somebody else like you, maybe not a Blue Box producer, might be an HSP or a lighting producer. So we really appreciate the conversations that we've been having with folks and folks' generosity about the time it's taking for us to get back to you. That's pretty much it. I'd like to thank Pele and Marisa for wrangling the chat, and Davina for leading us through this. Thank you, everybody, for attending. We appreciate your time. Hope this was helpful.
Thank you so much. Take care, everyone.
Bye.
Bye.